Shalom Israel. Quick video. Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Kadash. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders, great millstone, most high to the brothers teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be elect. Most high will, sooner than later, to the contrite spirits, returning back to the most high blessings. This is a footage of GMS Trinidad, and you see the young brother, and he looks about 12. To me, he looks about 12, and hopefully that's right. But these women are gonna start being ashamed of the part that they bred, which was not our children not being taken care of. And he's, 12 is you're a young man, but in this society, it's a little kid. Especially how they dumb it down. But, we told you this is the voice of the Father. And, he's bringing back his elect. Because on the 2/3 side, you got children growing up, and at his age, bugged out and doing crazy ass shit, disobedient to parents and all that. So you could say a black woman did a sloppy job. You can see the results out there. That kind of sounds like something Trump would say a little bit. And the black woman done a sloppy job. I can't talk him, but it says, Hosea 4:6, it says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. Thou be no priest to me. Seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, thy power, I will also forget thy children. And, children are left on the streets like why do babies, if the Most High is real, why do he let babies die? And Most High had to put one thing against the other. So as much as, it's shown that what y'all have produced and produced monsters has to be a righteous side to that, to where, you see the production, of the Most High through, through true meaning of spirit, manifest in the flesh. Because even when Yahushua said he conquered death, he overcame sin in a sinful body. Let me not butcher that. He overcame sin in a sinful body, King James Version. Romans 8:3, for what the law could not do. Let me get it. In that it was weak through the flesh, God sent his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and sin condemned sin in the flesh. He was a perfect man. He condemned sin in the flesh. So when you be like, well, there's no way out, Most High, I'm just addicted, I'm just, all bugged out, lusted out, this and that, and you're not fighting. And then you knowing that an example of a man that already won the fight, then there's no hope for you. That's why that's what real believers mean. They don't mean going to church and sitting in a pew and all that, and then just hollering out your lungs and shit and telling that you what happened on the way to church or in your weekend and all that after the booze and the partying and shit, or during that time. Anyway, so Most High, this is a part of the standard, the front lines, the battlefield, how they recruit. And, America recruit in their battlefield, they recruit. If it comes to means, they recruit. they recruit them at 18, and it could be less than that. So, when you see these things, and the battlefield is, you know, open to where it has these concerns of, you know, these concerns growing of, like, what is it? Why they got young children out there with them? Well, that's the cost of the battle, and the Edomites to tell you that when they go bomb countries, shit, they got a little kid that was affect many kids, but they got a picture of what happened in during the time of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They and they have these Japanese kids, and they affected by Agent Orange and all that, and they show them nude basically. There's pictures on that. Google that, and so America didn't regard the young. You know, they don't regard the young when it comes to battle. Like, well, and they say it was a. I don't know if it was that particular event. I don't know if it was. They gave them an ultimatum to get out of there, or whatever. Whatever the case, they didn't care. Even over here in America, the soil of America, its own grounds, you can be underage, but they'll still try you as an adult. So they know, they know, and we know. So you know, it might be a hard thing, for some people to see, and maybe even these people that love children, love, you know, oh, they're innocent and don't even care if they're Israelites, you know, because that's never been spoken about. Well, the Israelites, they got ill children in their congregation. They influencing them, children to go think wrong and all that. They just see you as a nigga child Israelite, and they hate you the same. That's why it says in the scriptures, they care for not the young or the old. You know, they don't care if you're young or old. They have pictures of real pictures of children, Negro children picking cotton. I know they're gonna try to turn it to AI, and that's where the events are going all on one chip, all on a big computer chip. Sounds familiar? Um, so but Most High put one thing against the other, and he's in the voices of the Father. That even when it says the Most High stretches forth out His hand, He sent His prophets, is being heard. You know, is being heard, and the work of it is manifest. That Most High is over men, and His work is is over. His work consists of righteousness and overcoming the wicked, and you know enriching Israel. Over, overall, pretty much it's gonna happen overall. But right now with the elect, so you know when Eve thinks she's special and raised a kid and say, well, I saved them from poverty, and I'm a good mother, and we don't, we lucky to have, she raised her children that way. Well, there's an opposite of that, which is the real truth of how we raise our children in the righteousness of the Most High. And be honest, if you look from their perspective and their scopes, all their existence, their children existence, the love and everything they put in for themselves and their children is based on, their economic status. And that's why women, they'll sell their children. That's why women look for the man and say, take care of your child, and disregard the responsibilities, accountabilities for their own children. Came out their own womb, they'll drop them at grandmother's house. They'll have some their auntie or their sister take care of them, or they say, come get your kid, because really they know what they are there. Sometimes we call them incubators, but they know what they are. They just a vessel for the children to come through, to be born on earth. But what was in the beginning? The man was created first, then the woman. And it says that, it reiterates that in Corinthians. So how is it going to be man before the woman? Well, that's the Most High, and they got a problem with the Most High, and they got a problem with His prophets, and they got a problem with His children raised under the prophet, and they got a problem with the whole thing. So, the young children that grow up under real prophets, real men of the Lord, that are void of all this madness in the streets and drug dealing and criminal activity and gang banging and this and that, have come, under the umbrella of Yahweh Yahushai, and the prophets being an elder, because it says treat as elders as a father. And we're doing much greater work in the spirit than they could ever do. And it talks about comparison too. It talks about comparing this world to the next world. It talks about comparing carnal things, spiritual things with spiritual things, because carnal things can't be compared. So, if you're a carnal-minded person, man or woman, and you're trying to compare, even in the dynamics of, what's better for my children, to grow up, graduate, and go out there, and some have been successful in this world. Many have not. Some have, and but they still go through the levels of classism, or look down on, regarding classism and racism. And then sometimes when they get to that point, or when they actually see it, they're beside themselves and they knock down, or they don't understand it and they bug out anyway. So if you're taught in the truth, and you're taught in the truth from a child, I don't want to talk too long. It's lucky I'm about to close out. And you know things, your enemy is, have knowledge of, places and countries and war and all that, even at a young age, even at 12, when Yahweh Shai was teaching doctors and lawyers, they was boggled by it. And when his own father and mother saw them, he said, "It shall not be about my father's business." That's what America hasn't been taught. Americans haven't been taught that. Citizens haven't been taught that. Our children haven't been taught that. The men and women of those children haven't been taught that, especially the women. So they think, according to the system, they think according to, oh yeah, you graduated, or if you don't graduate and you become a misfit and enter the streets, they think that's the worst thing in the world. But for a man of the Lord, when he looks back at those things for a testimony, he say, well, this is how far the Lord brought me, because I was this low, I was in jail, I was locked up, I sold drugs, now look at me. So don't ever try to come against the Most High and intervene with his ministries. Anyway, hopefully it's edifying. Shalom. To the next video.